comes out of sedation. I'm sure anybody who gets shot will tell you who shot them, right?
Conclusions. But we're gonna do this respectfully, otherwise we'll end in a duel. And I mean a duel, real live duel, where only one person walks away.
Y'all say, man, Terrence Howard might have just bitten off more than he can chew, because Katt Williams has just leaked a plot to unalive Terrence. And he is pointing fingers at none other than Diddy himself. And I guess this shouldn't be that surprising, because Terrence stirred up some major trouble for Diddy when he claimed that Diddy allegedly tried to do some bad things to him, if you catch my drift. Well, considering that Diddy is currently facing some very serious charges for similar accusations like this, it's not surprising that Diddy does not want more details coming out. And according to Katt Williams, it seems like Terrence knows more than he revealed on that podcast. So does this mean that Terrence knows more about Diddy's victims? And did he really hint at that on the podcast? Y'all, this is a hot mess, and Terrence might want to watch his back, because things are about to get messy. Now, if there's one person that we can trust to spill all the details about Diddy, it's Katt Williams. He hasn't stopped trying to expose Diddy since he went on Club Shay Shay, and he made some interesting comments about Diddy's parties. But during the interview, Katt claimed that Diddy's freak-off parties were worse than anybody ever knew. But he also claimed that Diddy allegedly offered to pay him $50 million for a one-night stand. But from the sounds of it, it looks like Diddy was also trying to buy his silence.
They offered him $50 million and he turned it down. Who gonna turn down $50 million? Now, I've had to turn down $50 million 4 times. 4 times, just to protect my integrity and that virgin hole I was telling you about. Right, because P. Diddy be wanting to body. And you gotta tell him no. You got to tell him no. I did. See, I got the receipts for everything I'm telling you. That's why I can say them so freely.
Can I need another one? You here, get you another one.
Thank you, sir, thank you.
Come on.
So if there's one person who has ears to the ground and knows what's going on, it's Katt, which is why it's not exactly surprising that he is now claiming that there was allegedly a plot to silence Terrence Howard. And from the sound of it, it seems like Terrence might know more than he's saying. Now, despite the many accusations and allegations and troubling reports surrounding Diddy, there's a lot of fans that were still shocked when Terrence publicly revealed his own weird and creepy experience with Diddy, in a revelation that added yet another layer to the already complex narrative surrounding Diddy. Terrence claimed that Diddy had some unwelcome advances towards him. According to Howard, there has been nothing discreet or subtle about the alleged encounter. He claimed that Diddy appeared to be quite bold and unapologetic in expressing what seemed to be a very personal interest in him, if you know what I mean. Well, Terrence implied that Diddy's behavior made it clear that he wasn't simply interested in a professional relationship or a casual conversation. He was instead pursuing something far more intimate and personal in nature. If you catch my drift, I need y'all to catch these drifts, okay?
Hey, did you ever have the opportunity where you got invited and you said no to it?
Hell yeah.
What was the consequences when you said no?
Puffy invited me for weeks, asking me to come and teach him how to, they wanted me to be his acting coach for a while. Go there and he's sitting around just looking. I'm like, okay, what's the material you want to work on? He's just looking at me. Then next thing you know, okay, hey, will you help me? I want to hear your music. So I come over there and I play the music, and he's sitting there just looking at me, like waiting. Okay. So then my assistant was like, he wants to hang out with you next week. And I was like, for what? He's like, I think he's trying to fuck you. That's what my assistant said. And I was like, oh, okay. Now I get it. So now no more communication. Now you know to be hands off with somebody. A number of producers come in to make the approach, and you threaten to punch them in the mouth, or threaten to knock their head off for talking to you or looking at you like you're a woman. When you approach a real man about his masculinity, you're gonna get a real reaction back. It's a difference when a guy walks in a room and when a man walks into a room. And a man don't take the same things that a guy will accept.
Given Diddy's long history of controversy, y'all might think that nothing would be as surprising at this point. Yet Terrence's claims still managed to leave us shook. We gotta give it to Diddy. He definitely still has that shock factor, even after everything we found out. And I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of interesting. It makes us wonder if there are still more alleged that we don't even know about, doesn't it? But during that same interview, Terrence also claimed that he said he wasn't the only black man Diddy allegedly tried to pull something on. According to him, Diddy has a very disturbing pattern of targeting black men, specifically at these so-called freak-offs, and Terrence went on to say that these events aren't just wild parties, but places where Diddy allegedly tries to strip black men of their masculinity, stealing their man card in the process. He implied that this wasn't an isolated incident. He hinted that there were other men likely in the industry who'd had similar experiences, but were too afraid or ashamed to speak out. But Terrence didn't name no names, but he did strongly hint that this behavior is part of a broader pattern, one that targets black men specifically, used in situations where they're vulnerable.
You lose some spiritual energy that has always been pushing through. Like if a woman gives up her womanly right of being a mother and taking care of her family and do all those things, when you give up those things, but when you give up your manhood, I've never seen somebody recover from it. That was all the people that went to the puffy parties. That was all the people that did all those things thinking that there was never going to be a consequence for what they were doing. Get punked out and pimped out by some greater desire. You shouldn't have a greater desire than being a man.
This kind of made people wonder if Usher was one of them black men who had his man card stolen by Diddy. Now, I'm not saying that it happened or it didn't, but given the rumors, well, it does have fans adding two and two together, and it's starting to add up. But what's wild about all this is that it wasn't even the first time that Terrence had spoken out about powerful figures in the industry, intentionally trying to emasculate black men. He's been ringing that alarm bell for a minute now. In fact, when Katt Williams made his explosive appearance on Club Shay Shay and boldly addressed the very same issue, talking about how certain people in Hollywood seem obsessed with breaking down strong black men, Terrence was one of the first to stand behind him. He didn't just co-sign Katt's claim with a quiet nod either. Terrence came out swinging in support, making it clear that this wasn't some crazy conspiracy theory. According to him, there's a real pattern of emasculation in play. He claimed that it's been normalized in the entertainment world under the guise of harmless fun or just part of the industry. He also claimed that the emasculation was the major reason he decided briefly to leave Hollywood, even though his career was at a good peak. He said, "My daddy taught me, never take the vertebrae out your back or the base out your throat. I ain't raising sheep, I raise men. Stay a man. Being a man comes with a curse because it's not a society made for man to flourish anymore. Everything is androgynous, you know. The more successful men now are, the effeminate." He also said, "The man has been demonized. With the new formula, most men are made to be effeminate and not have their power or sense of strength. They allow white men to be able to be strong, but when it's a black man, it's seen as a threat. I don't want to remove a few chromosomes to fit in somebody's story, so I feel the need to expand their stories to allow men to be men and simultaneously appreciate a woman's beauty." Okay, man. But given everything we know about Terrence and how outspoken he's been about the industry's dark underbelly and how unafraid he is to name them names, you really have to sit back and ask yourself, what was Diddy even thinking trying to pull something off with him of all people? But Terrence is the last person who's gonna stay quiet about something like this. He's been calling this kind of behavior out for years, so if Diddy thought he could finesse or intimidate him into silence, that was a bold miscalculation. But then again, this is Diddy we're talking about, as arrogant as they come. This is the same man who allegedly invited 50 Cent on a shopping spree, supposedly trying to flirt with him, knowing full well that 50 has made a whole career out of dragging him and being his #1 hater. But if Diddy wasn't fazed by the idea of making a move on someone as petty and as publicly aggressive as 50, then it just kind of tracks that he wouldn't blink twice before trying something with Terrence either. It seems like Diddy doesn't care who you are or how vocal you've been. When he wants something, he just does it, no matter what the consequences may be. But here's where it gets even messier, because the timing of Terrence's latest comments could not have been worse for Diddy. His trial is creeping up very fast, with the jury selection scheduled to begin in just 2 weeks. That means all eyes are about to be back on him, and the court of public opinion is already heating up. The last thing Diddy needs right now is for his alleged misdeeds, especially the more predatory ones, to start trending all over again. And yet again, here we are, with Terrence adding more fuel to the fire. The internet's been buzzing, and you just know folks are gonna start revisiting every old story, every accusation, every freak-off rumor. And Diddy's trying to fight for his freedom, and meanwhile, his name is being dragged through the mud over and over and over again. If he thought the noise had died down, Terrence just turned the volume right back up. And according to Katt Williams, this is allegedly the reason why Terrence's life is in danger. From Katt's perspective, Terrence knows more than what he said in the podcast, and it seems like Diddy's team thought they could trust Terrence to keep his mouth shut, but that changed when he spilled it on the podcast. But if you think that this is all a little bit cray-cray, well, the stakes are even higher. The charges Diddy is facing are way more serious than people seem to realize. The civil lawsuits alone are messy enough, but the real storm is coming from the feds, the federales. This isn't just a slap on the wrist situation or a PR scandal he can pay his way out of. The federal case has some serious weight behind it. He's looking at a racketeering charge, which if convicted could land him in prison for life. Not 5 years, not 10, a whole life. That charge alone puts him in the same category as mob bosses and drug kingpins. The government isn't just saying that he did some shady stuff, they're saying he ran an entire criminal enterprise. And on top of all that, he's also facing a charge, and unlike the racketeering charge, which could carry a range of sentences, this one comes with a mandatory minimum of 15 years. That means if convicted, there's no pleading down, no slaps on the wrist, no celebrity leniency. He'd have to serve at least 15 years behind bars. So when you zoom out and look at the big picture, you can see why his team would allegedly try to avoid these new scandals. And the interesting thing is that the judge and the prosecutors in this case saw this coming from the very start. Diddy was officially arrested back in September 2024, and ever since that moment, he's been sitting around behind bars. During that time, his legal team was working overtime trying to get him out of jail on bail, and they filed multiple motions, pulled every card they could, and tried to argue that he's not even a flight risk, that he's got deep ties to the community, but it hasn't worked at all. The prosecutors came in strong and laid out every very convincing case for why Diddy needed to stay exactly where he is, and they argued that not only is he a major flight risk given his money, power, and connections across the world, but that there's also a real concern about witness intimidation and tampering. Basically, they said, if you let this man out, there's no telling what strings he might try to pull behind the scenes, and the judge clearly agreed. Every attempt at bail has been shut down, which says a lot. And given the fact that his bestie Russell Simmons moved to Bali to avoid similar charges, I guess it's not hard to see why they want to keep Diddy behind bars. Because y'all, right after all this popped off, he was right down there with Russell checking things out in Bali. But according to reports, they're worried he will intimidate witnesses and obstruct the case if he's released on bond. Prosecutors also say Diddy's got the money and the means to be a flight risk, and the feds say he had what appeared to be narcotics in his hotel room when he was arrested. Now y'all keep this part in mind, but we're going to circle back to this in a bit. Anyways, to show y'all just how serious the case is, his lawyers desperately tried to get him out on bail, even going as far as to put his house up as bail. But Diddy tried to prove that he wasn't a flight risk by offering $50 million. According to reports, Diddy's lawyer proposed bail on these conditions: a $50 million bail co-signed by Sean Combs, his mother, his sister, the mother of his oldest daughter, and his 3 adult sons. He also proposed that the bond would be secured by the equity of Mr. Combs' residence located at 2 West Star Island in Miami, Florida. The appraised value of the home is about $48 million. The home is unencumbered in anticipation of this bail hearing on August 20, 2024. Mr. Combs paid off the remaining mortgage of about $18 million so that the home could be used to secure a bond and be free of a mortgage. The document went on to say that the bond would also be secured by the equity of Mr. Combs' mother's home located on 450 Alton Road in Miami, Florida, and that Mr. Combs' travel will be restricted to the Southern District of Florida and the Southern District of New York to attend court, meet with his counsel, and attend medical appointments, which we will address to the court in a separate sealed submission. as well as the Eastern District of New York or the District of New Jersey, only to that extent that his travel to and from New York involves an airport in those districts. So yeah, y'all, there's a whole lot riding on this case, and to make matters worse, the Reds recently added 2 new charges and accused Diddy of using force, fraud, or coercion to compel a woman to engage in commercial sex acts from at least 2021 to 2024. And given that Cassie first exposed him in 2023, that means that the feds have reason to believe that Diddy's shenanigans were still ongoing even after he was exposed. So the new indictment also went on to claim that Diddy was involved in transporting the woman, identified as only and other people, including commercial sex workers, to engage in prostitution during the same period. The new charges bolstered in an indictment already charging him with the racketeering conspiracy and trafficking. Federal prosecutors said the racketeering conspiracy charges involves allegations that Combs has trafficked 3 and forced a 4th, one of his employees, into activity with him. The prosecutors went on to claim that Diddy coerced and women for years as he used his power and prestige as a music star to enlist a network of associates and employees to help him while he silenced victims, blackmail, and violence, including kidnapping, arson, and physical beating. Y'all, this whole thing is getting crazier, and to make things worse, there are reports that Terrence was allegedly invited for a chat by the feds following his interview and all the claims that he made. And considering that the feds are now in the process of lining up victims to testify against Diddy in the trial, the streets are speculating that Terrence might know even more than he's telling. Oh, and y'all remember how the prosecutors claimed that Diddy might try to intimidate witnesses? Well, Katt Williams is convinced that Terrence might be in danger. If he truly knows more than he's telling, well, he might need to sleep with one eye open from now on. Because get this, it looks like Terrence knows that he's in some danger, and he recently posted a video on social media that had folks raising eyebrows and connecting the dots real fast. In the clip, he didn't name names or say anything outright, but fans could tell that the vibe was off. He spoke carefully, almost like he was trying to say something without actually saying it, which only made fans pay closer attention, and fans were convinced that he was hinting at how he was getting threats from people.
When they spoke against someone, they had to speak it with their whole being. And if you're going to speak against me, then use the same courage that it took for me to say those truths. Man to man, eye to eye, integrity and in truth. I've spent a lifetime earning the right to speak with the conviction about these truths that I speak. So if you want to tear that down, have the decency to come and say it directly to my face. And say it like a man. If you're going to talk about the geometry, have other geometries to argue against it. If you're going to talk about the supersymmetry, speak of other supersymmetries that would work against it. If you're going to talk about the white papers, provide your own white paper as an argument to argue against the equations or the conclusions. But we're going to do this respectfully, otherwise we'll end in a duel. And I mean a duel, a real life duel, where only one person walks away. We can meet with guns, bottles, knives, or books and equations.
Y'all, it's not like it would be the first time that somebody spoke out and suddenly started getting anonymous threats. In Hollywood, silence is often demanded, not requested. And when someone like Terrence starts talking, it wouldn't be surprising if certain people, powerful people, started sending a message to shut it down. And just so we're clear that he was referring to the Diddy situation, he added the hashtag #ManCard. You know, the same thing that he spoke about on the podcast. Law, protect TH at all costs. And he need to watch his back because the stakes are too high and the situation is desperate. But I gotta know what y'all think about this. Drop your thoughts and comments below and then check out this next video.